Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, a YouTube channel and podcast made by Celtic fans all over the world, for Celtic fans all over this great big world. And who do we have joining us today and from what foreign exotic climes? Well, all the way in sunny Wrexham, we have Innes. How you doing, Innes?
Hi Gav, how you doing? Good to be on. Yeah, I'm not so sure it's sunny. It has been the last few days, but it's a bit grey and miserable again today. So same as it's been for the last 3 months.
And I hear your friend Robert Reynolds was up at the Derby.
Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, he was there.
Ryan
Yeah,
Reynolds, not
yeah,
Robert Reynolds.
yeah.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, he was
He
at the
brought his son,
game.
but he'll never go back, he says. It was too
Yeah,
scary.
yeah. I saw him, and he was in amongst the fans. He stood in with the fans the other day
Oh, yeah.
at the Hull game. Yeah. So, and he
Oh,
wasn't bothered. He wasn't getting bothered or pestered. He was just standing in the tech end, in amongst the crowd.
Nice.
man
So,
of the people. And
yeah.
here's another man of the people joining us, all the way from the world famous Eddie in Bangkok, or near Bangkok.
Near
How you doing,
Bangkok.
Eddie?
Yeah, hello everyone. Nice to see everyone. We actually here we had a very very wet morning. It poured with rain this morning, but it dried up enough for me to get out and do my walk. So much better now. Nice and sunny now.
Good man yourself. All right, well, as we let people come in, dribble in, say hello to one or two. Just Coton says hail. Mickey Burns, that's our very own Mickey in Italy. He says it's pissing down there. So let's all be grateful for the beautiful weather in which we find ourselves. All right. So, what we're going to talk about today? Well, as is customary, we're going to have a look at the thumbnail and break it down like it was a piece of poetry or words to that effect. Anyway, can we turn up the heat? Is the question we ask. There's Martin O'Neill looking across at Jens Berthel Asku. Is that his name? Something like that. I haven't mastered it yet. And we, Derek McInnes, checking out the goings on. Can we turn up the heat? Obviously, that's the big question. Can we? Can we put pressure on the league leaders before they kick off their game? Heat obviously isn't a million miles away from the word heart, if you want to break it down further. And of course, can we turn up? Are the first four words of that, which sort of isn't so much questioning our commitment or will to win. That's obviously present in abundance, but are we going to start performing at all better? Because there's some big games coming up before the split, as we'll look at, and indeed after the split, against some of the better teams in the league. So it would be pretty handy if our players individually and our team as a unit in us started to perform a wee bit.
Yeah, I mean that'd be good, obviously, because the season's been a long, drawn out, churn, if you like. But again, at this stage of the season, I think everybody's just grateful if we can get over the line, get another 3 points. Certainly, the fixtures this weekend are in our favour. We've got the 3 o'clock on the Saturday at home, and well, let's see which Celtic turn up and which Motherwell turn up for that matter after their defeat to Dundee. But let's see. And then Hearts are away to Kilmarnock in the evening kickoff. So if we can get the points in the bag, let's see if it puts the heat on the Hearts game. I don't expect Neil McCann to do us any favours, by the way, but that's aside. So let's see what happens.
I mean, it's quite exciting, Eddie, for all of this season, as Innes refers to there. It's been such a grind. It's been grim. I've been giving up halfway through games. It's been very well publicised. And yeah, there's been a lot of annoyance and negativity and infighting among the fans and even among some of us occasionally. People get a bit short with each other. But as I was talking to Stephen about there on the last show, this could be game on. We're in the semi-finals of the cup. We could go within 2 points of the league leaders here and put them under a bit of pressure, and points can be dropped. And before you know it, this could all get very exciting very quickly. It already is, really, isn't it? Are you excited, Eddie?
Well, I'm a bit more excited after the weekend. Yeah, I think that kind of helps out when you can go there and And, all right, it was a torrid sort of display, but a really good defensive display with in effect, a B team almost, and come away there with a win. So that helps boost the morale. And then, we're up against Motherwell. Everybody's, applauding Motherwell, saying they're the best footballing team in the league, etc., etc. Yeah, okay, fine. They're
Not
form.
just the league.
Yeah. But
the UK, apparently.
Well, okay. I think there's a lot of hype about it, I think, to be honest. I don't believe a lot of hype about anybody, to be honest. And I see they've got a couple of players out as well, Motherwell. But again, it depends. The thumbnail was the right thing. Depends who turns up. In other words, who do we put on the pitch against Motherwell?
Well, we're definitely going to be talking all about that later in the show. So I would keep your powder dry there, Eddie.
Dry for that. But yeah, I mean, I think you're quite right. I mean, if we've still got the Scottish Cup to play for, and we've got St Mirren in that, who may have a different manager by that time, who knows? And if we can turn over Motherwell, then the heat's back on Hearts against Kilmarnock. And we've just got to, I mean, it's going to be like this for the remaining part of the season. We've got to win and then watch what everybody else does around about us and hope that somebody slips up other than us.
Yeah, although I think this is just about the only time we're playing ahead of them until the split anyway. All right. So that's what this show is today. We don't have a game to review. We don't have stills to review of that, of the most recent match. So we're going to be previewing the Motherwell game in some level of detail later. Who we're going to play, who they're going to play, all that sort of thing. Their manager, bit of a profile on him. That's sort of generally the discussion. Now, I don't want to spend too long talking about the aftermath of the Glasgow Derby, but I don't know about you fellas, but I have honestly been, because the season's been so tough, I've been just wanting to enjoy the result of the game so much and just loving the fact that we somehow got past them in a penalty shootout, which is hilarious. That I haven't been drinking in all the sort of post-game analysis and all the apportioning of blame and, pundits and Police Scotland and all that. So you might be filling me in a bit here, both you guys in the virtual studio and the people at home watching. They've probably got a better handle on all this stuff than I do. So, all right. So let's do a bit of that. So, okay, well, the first thing is it was cup final and we got the draw, and you've already kind of touched on that, but let's just have a quick look at that draw. Courtesy of PLZ football or soccer, whatever they're called. I'm sure Peter Martin won't mind us using his
badge. Isn't that their own badge as well for St Mirren?
Oh, well, what the heck? That's an AI badge, is it?
Yeah, it's. I don't know where you got that
that's
from.
Shocking. Bloody amateurs. I didn't put it up in order to reveal that.
Oh, did you not? Sorry, I thought that was the reason you put it up.
No. Wouldn't want to be dissing Peter Martin like that. Tremendous voice. Scottish football.
Right, sure.
So that's what it looks like. Us against St Mirren and Dunfermline against Falkirk. So that's a pretty mad lineup of teams. What do we make of the other semi-final, first of all, Innes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good tie, and Lenny's doing a good job there. Good result against Aberdeen, though they're in a bit of a shit show. But 3-0 result against them is put them in a good position, and he'll be favouring himself against Falkirk too, I guess. So, yeah, there's a good chance that Dunfermline might get through to the final.
Okay, I smell the glove there saying Martinoneill versus Lennon final. Celtic versus the Lie Downers. What do you make of that, Eddie?
I don't think Lennon will be lying down if that was the case. I think he'll be putting up as much of a fight as he possibly can. I don't think he's that kind of animal, even though he has so much love for probably Martinoneill as well as Celtic. But yeah, he certainly won't be lying down. Great result for them. But Falkirk are a tough team. And they can turn up when they want to. They can. I mean, they've given us a couple of good games. in the cup. Even they've given us a couple of good games. So yeah, that'll be a tough semi-final for them.
Yeah, and as you say, Innes St Mirren, well, we don't know who their manager's going to be, because it looks
No.
like, from what I was reading anyway, that if Robinson wants it and they can agree terms, it's as good as done.
Yeah, that's the way I read it too. I read it last night, and St Mirren were pretty open for him to go and speak with Aberdeen. So I'm pretty sure that'll be a done deal. I didn't see it coming, to be honest, but we'll see, and then we'll see who they replace Robinson with at St Mirren. So because we've got to play them in the league yet.
There's been a lot of talk about him getting a better job.
Yeah,
because he did well enough with Motherwell. He did well with St Mirren. Do you think he deserves it? Do you rate him as a manager?
he's getting a lot of plaudits for the team he's got. Albeit they've been on a bit of a slide in the recent weeks and months. So don't know. Obviously, time will tell. Aberdeen's been in a bit of a mess, and they just seem to be going round the blocks trying to get whoever they can in.
And Eddie, when he takes over, then he'll be battling relegation against his old club. It's just going to be tough for them to take.
Yeah, it came as a bit of a surprise to me, as Innes says. Although I've got a good friend of mine here who's an Aberdonian, and he hinted at something like that after that cup game. He said there was going to be a kind of announcement of possible changes. They're pretty close knit, the Aberdonians, aren't they? They're all pretty close knit with each other, so they kind of tend to hear these things. But I rate him. I think he's a good manager. As you say, whether he can go up there and actually turn Aberdeen around and back into something that they're able to challenge, who knows? But I wouldn't put it past him to do it. He's done some really good stuff with the players and available to, and
exactly.
He's going to have hopefully a bigger budget at Aberdeen than he would have had at St Mirren. So yeah, all good for him, I guess.
All right, so that's our semi-final opponent in the cup. We're through. Happy days, joyous celebrations all round. No need for any negative talk. So let's spend the next 10 minutes or so covering all the negative talk. All right, so Police Scotland. I've only caught a couple of headlines here and there, and I don't really know to what extent they have both sides it, or have they, reflected that one side was jubilant and the other aggressive. Innes, what's your tuppence worth on that?
Yeah, I saw the interview with the chief superintendent. I can't remember her name, but anyway, it was basically they were comfortable with what job they did. I'm not so sure about that. It was pretty piss poor, to be honest. And what you've seen, certainly from the Celtic fans going up to the Broom Loan, that was just a real shit show. And in the ground, they didn't cover themselves with glory. But they're just passing the buck and saying, both fans to blame, blah, blah, blah. But for me, there's a real lack of stewards. That was the biggest problem. If you see it after Chivinchara scores a penalty, there's only like 2 stewards in front of the Onion Bears. So pretty poor planning is the way I take it.
And Eddie, have Celtic responded officially at all?
Not from what I've seen. I've been keeping an eye on it in the last couple of days and not seen anything. I heard a terrible rumor through, I think it was an English pundit, to be fair, that they were delaying this because they were thinking of a joint statement. And I thought, that cannot be true. That would be the final nail in a coffin between fans and the club if they made a joint statement with Rangers. I got rid of the whole comment as soon as I heard it. But I mean, to go back to from what I could see, I saw one of the interviews with the policewoman who was in charge of the day saying that they'd made 9 arrests inside the stadium. And I'm like, well, 9? How is it just 9? How can it possibly be just 9? Now, she did say that, they were still looking at footage and all the rest of it. And what I don't understand for the life of me, is that we have technology that VAR can see that Scales' foot is 2 millimeters offside, his trailing foot, with a camera. And we can't use the CCTV and the cameras and the media and everything else to pick out these guys across the board that are causing the mayhem. I don't get it. Something stinks. That you should be able to use that. And I mean, I heard the stories of the entrance into the Broomlin. Now, I was there years and years ago, and I don't remember it being an issue getting into Broomlin. It's a long time ago, but I don't remember it ever being an issue, in and out, to be honest. So the way it was being described by several people who were there about being sort of wedged into little tiny spaces and 20 allowed in at any one time, I don't recall any of that when I was there.
No, I saw the video footage of it. I saw the video footage of them. They're walking up to the ground, and it was all in a narrow. And you're having to go in and out of police, so all the way up, right up to the turnstiles. It was shocking. So just like a crowd crush, wait to happen.
Yeah, I mean, how if people are saying that the police are checking your tickets 3 to 4 times before you get anywhere near the entrance, and then you have people actually getting in through a door with no it doesn't add up. Something's not quite right. Yeah. Either somebody's not doing their job, or I don't know what's going on, but something, just none of it added up really. And I mean, I think I've seen it before where, and it's been annoying sometimes at the end of a close end of a game where the game's just about to finish, one team's about to win, and you have that line of stewards that come out right in front of everybody. Now, it's probably a pain in the ass for the people who are right at the front of that, but that tended to work in the past, and I didn't see that. And it's not like they didn't have plenty of time. It was penalties, for crying out loud. They could have done that in penalty number 1.
Yeah.
And that would have really just delayed the whole thing. It would have stopped the whole thing. So, yeah, the way it was managed is a bit bizarre. The other thing about it was right at the very beginning when they asked Police Scotland about the allocation, when the SFA said, right, they're going to get the 20%, and Police Scotland were asked for comment, and they said, right, nothing to see here. It's up to the clubs to do that. That's their decision. It's up to them what they want to do. So, yeah, whether there's just no money in Rangers to pay for proper policing and stewarding, I don't know. And I mean, if I'm a steward on minimum wage, I'm not getting in front of that. I have to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not getting in front of those guys if I'm a minimum wage steward.
But if you look at Hampden, it's an equal split, 25,000 each at Hampden, and then there's lines of stewards over both ends. So they can manage that no problem. So there's no reason why they can't manage it at Ibrox.
Completely agree. And what are they going to do now if you get a semi-final or a final at Hampden? With no away fans are shouting at. Well, how are you going to do that? It's an empty stadium.
No fans. Yeah.
I mean, it's just madness. Madness.
All right, let's have a look at a couple of little tweets then. Well, this is what you hear from the Celtic fans, and it's only really from Celtic, from what I can see. Celtic fans, vandalism, yes. Spilling out, yes. Rangers fans, vandalism, spilling out. Running 100 metres to fight, assault Celtic staff, assault stewards, throw lit flares, throw batteries, attack buses. We're no angels, but this, both as bad, is BS. What about the pundits? Any pundits stand out for making sense on this matter or being particularly egregious in it?
No, as predicted, all the pundits I've seen, they're all playing the equivalents, one side's as bad as the other. There's none of them come out and actually said actually what's happened here. None of them. Apart from Graham Spears. Graham Spears. He did come out and he was a bit fair.
He's the only one.
Graham Souness saying something to that effect, and now he's getting abuse from the Rangers fans. No,
I didn't see it.
I seen him and he got very close to saying certain things, but he didn't actually do it. He was on the verge of it, and then he pulled back a couple of times. But yeah, Graham Spears is the only one that's been. But I don't think that should be a surprise to any of us. They're all fence sitters, and those that are not fence sitters are on the other side. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to us, really.
Yeah, Spears is generally pretty fair. When he said it as it is, I mean, Celtic didn't get off; they spilled onto the pitch, and that's fact, But he also said it was in euphoria, not being antagonistic.
Yeah, you saw the policewoman getting kicked from behind as she was running from left to right. And, of course, the footage of the steward getting decked, we showed that on the last show. Yeah, so you would think that any sober analysis of the evidence would, come to a very clear conclusion, but is there such a thing as a sober analysis of the evidence?
No, I mean, it's entirely predictable. This, any time that the Buns get beat, especially in the manner that this game turned out to be, then it rumbles on. We're in day 4, and it'll be all over the news again today. So entirely predictable.
But it's not as if that anyone would, resort to doctoring images to try and make the both sides thing a bit more clear.
Yeah.
Lisbon Lion here. Clumsy photoshops won't change the narrative from Sunday. There were faults on all sides, including the policing. But I think the initial burst of Celtic fans on the pitch wasn't one intent on violence. That being said, stay in the stands and cut out the stupid graffiti. And there's an image here of, an onion bear, presumably, swinging a kick at some stewards. And then another identical image where he's got a Celtic scarf wrapped around his hand. So, I mean, I can't attest to the veracity of that post, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all. That's pretty funny, isn't it? And you saw other things like that. Weren't there toilets damaged that were in fact Celtic's toilets, and they changed the green to blue?
Yeah.
Did you see all that?
Yeah. So, and also the STV had posted the broken seats, but it was actually in the Copland Road. So.
Yeah.
The thing is that they're talking about the graffiti, and yeah, quite right. Nobody should be celebrating the fact that 66 people died watching a game of football. I mean, that's just madness. But at the end of the day, that didn't cause the Rangers supporters to come onto the pitch and run the other end. Neither did Celtic supporters going in and breaking through an entry. That didn't start the Rangers supporters running to the other end. None of that did. The breaking the seats, if there was any, didn't start the Rangers supporters running from the other end. They ran from the other end because they can't abide being defeated there by us and us celebrating that fact. That's it. That's the only reason they moved from one end of the pitch to the other.
100%.
Not because of those other things.
All right. Well, that'll do, I think, for today's show, talking about all that stuff. Let's get back to the footy, shall we? And this is the table. So, it tells its own picture there. We're 5 points behind. And as we already mentioned, we win our game against Motherwell, we'll be 2 points behind. I mean, it's a big if. It's not going to be an easy victory, but, Motherwell are no Real Madrid, as Stephen said on the last show. They were just beaten by Dundee. So we'll have a little look at that, and maybe what did Dundee do that we could do. And these are the fixtures. This amazing graphic I put together. It's very high tech. These are the fixtures for the remainder of the pre-split fixtures anyway. So it's us against Motherwell, at home to Motherwell, they're away to Kilmarnock. This is just our fixtures and Hearts fixtures. Because as far as I'm concerned, if we finish above Hearts, we win the league. That's what I think. And then the following weekend, Hearts play on the Saturday. Eddie, you raised that issue of who plays first. So they play against Dundee, and then we're away at Dundee United the following day. Then on Sunday the 5th of April, they're away to Livingston, we're away to Dundee. So we're both away on that day. And then the following Saturday, we're both at home. They're at home to Motherwell, and we're at home to St Mirren, who were also playing in the Cup and may have a different manager come that fixture. So, Eddie, do you have any thoughts? Do you have any strong thoughts about what the position might be come the split?
Well, I think
where points might get dropped.
Looking at that, they're actually quite remarkably similar fixtures, with Dundee's and everybody being in there. I think, depending on what the situation is up to the 11th of April, I think that weekend's game will be important. At Hearts versus Motherwell, because hopefully Motherwell will still be playing quite well by then. And again, we've talked about Celtic, and maybe St Mirren have got another coach, so by then another manager by then. So to say who's got the easier of those games, I think are much of a muchness, to be honest.
Yeah. Ennis, you have any thoughts on these?
No, I agree with Eddie there. I think it'll be nip and tuck right up until the split, and it'll be decided post-split. I'm actually going up to the Tannadice for the Dundee United game next weekend. But we've just got to, everybody's getting a bit carried away, saying that we're actually just winning games by the odd goal, and we've got to remember what happened against Hibs. So we're one game away from a shit show as well. So we've got to bear that in mind. But I think we'll be going up to the split. I think it'll be nip and tuck, and it'll be decided post the split. And let's see if Hearts can sustain that pressure.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is all the talk. What if we win? We're 2 points behind. That might put the wind up them. What if we don't win? And then they do, away at Kilmarnock. Then their 5-point lead is extended. That could be grim.
Well, it'll be us saying again, well, that's the league done again. I think some of us have said that about 3 or 4 times so far in the last 3 or 4 weeks. That's it done. And then something else has happened to keep us in there. But I'm sure it'll be said again. But we've still got it. So
I think it's in our favour. The defence is playing pretty strong at the minute. So that means, we're actually looking pretty solid at the back. All things considered with the team changes that we've had and the players we've had to change. But I think you've seen this week with Skills coming out and back in Sinisalo, coming for corners. It's given them confidence. So, it's no surprise that they're feeling confident defensively. What we've got to sort out is midfield and up front because we just can't score. That's the problem.
Okay, well, we'll come on to some of that shortly. Here's a rather negative question from G-Dog. Could St Mirren be the team to end our season? Beat us in the cup final. 2 late league goals to beat them in the 2 league games. A bit of a bogey team for us this season. And of course, now we played them twice in what could be key games. I mean, just a few days ago, I saw one of the Rangers podcasts had a thumbnail talking about how they could end our season in the next coming days. And so they didn't end our season. I think it's less likely of St Mirren doing it, to be honest. But stranger things have happened. Okay, so those are the fixtures. Right. So have you been watching much of Motherwell this season? I mean, I just catch the odd highlights here and there. I don't know their players all that well. Obviously, the players that we've been linked to recently, Maswanise and what's your man's name?
Just.
Elijah Just.
Yeah.
We've been linked with both of them recently. They tend to stand out, don't they?
I haven't seen much of it, Gav. I've only seen highlights of the goals and that, so no analysis on their games.
Yeah, I watched a bit of the last game with Dundee, but I mean the Dundee keeper had a good game that day. I think that helped for that win. But no, I haven't watched too much of them. That's why I suppose I'm not really qualified then to say that it's overhyped if I haven't watched too much of them. But you're just looking at the form. So I haven't seen their so-called this football that they're playing that's magnificent, to be honest. So can't comment on how they're playing at the moment.
He's saying Motherwell game not a gimme, even at Celtic Park. Their form is good, bit better than Celtic's. This is the form table from the Fishy. There you can see Motherwell's form. Well, I mean, it's equal over the last 6 games, 4 wins, a loss and a draw. And possibly tellingly, they've just lost, which might knock their confidence a bit going into this big game. That would be the hope, Eddie.
Yeah, the worrying bit is, and it's sort of just alluded to there, is that plus 10 their goal difference, is it? So that's the big look at the difference in that. Mm-hmm. So that's our biggest issue at the moment. Without Nygren, then I don't know where we'd be. So our biggest issue is up front. And again, astounded that Mavuka was playing the weekend. I don't know where that came from. That's just bizarre. Obviously, that was another halftime change. It would be interesting to see how many halftime changes we've made in this season compared to others, because we must have made a lot, especially under Martinoneill just recently. But yeah, certainly up front, we need to be finding goals from somebody. And we've
St.
given
Mary's-
Maeda
sorry.
as many chances as we can, but he's still not doing it for us. So
Here's a comment from St. Mary's Parish, Coatbridge. Welsh won't be able to play on Saturday. I assume he means Stephen Welsh, and he's not referencing the people of Wrexham or its greater area.
No,
that
that's a
can't
good
play
point.
football.
That's a good point, and he's actually having a good season for them. So yeah, so that will play in our favour, hopefully. But as I said, none of the games for us are a gimme at this moment. None. So but Neil's managing to grind out the results by the odd goal, and fingers crossed. Hopefully, we can actually start getting Chivinchara or whatever scoring goals or whoever. Maida even doesn't matter where they come from, to be honest. And Eddie's right. I mean, where would we be without Negrin? So
Celtic have won 4 more games than this magnificent swashbuckling Motherwell this season. Brown Warrior points out that's pretty interesting. And Mahesh saying, spot on, Eddie. There you go. You're getting some props from Mahesh, Eddie. The goal difference is the #1 predictor in a game. All right. Well, I sort of mentioned the Dundee game. How do we look here just to get a bit of a review of this match? Apparently, they came flying out of the traps, as they always do. John McCracken made eight saves for Dundee in their win over Motherwell.
yeah.
Motherwell found themselves in a position they've not often been in this season, having to come from behind. It was only the second time this calendar year that the Steelmen have been behind in a game. So that is something quite interesting for us to look at, if we can get off to a quick start and get them coming from behind, which is not their forte. That is something we should look at. And we do tend to try and start these games quickly, at least in us, and overpower them, especially when at home.
yeah, and I've said it many times on the show. That's if we can get an early goal, we get settled in and then start to play our own game. But the problem comes in if we don't score. The heat comes from the stands. Everybody's getting edgy. Then the players get edgy, and it just gets drawn out, longer and longer. It's not good. So if we get the early goal, hopefully we can do the job.
It was an unusually sloppy performance from Ascu's men. They had 25 crosses, none of which could be turned home by lauded forward Tawanda Maswanise, who looked a far cry from his usual self. More of the same, please, Eddie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, he'd been playing really well. I mean, we were all, I think a lot of us were hoping we were going to get him in January and bring him across. But he seems to have dipped about a bit in the last couple of games from what I understand. But, I think we're right if we get the early goal, but we've done that before as well, had the early goal, and then we've kind of lost our way again. So I'll be greedy and ask for an early 2 goals, and then we can sort of maybe have at least one game this season where we might be able to sit and relax for maybe 60 or 70 minutes rather than being hiding behind the couch. That would be nice.
Yeah, there's been nothing relaxing about watching Celtic games at all. I mean, if I can make it through an entire one, I think I've done pretty well, let alone the couch. I'm out walking the dogs or something.
I think my Thai neighbours thought I was killing someone on Sunday. They thought I was murdering somebody in the room.
Smell the glove. Welsh and Maswanise were out of the 2-0 defeat at Fir Park, but that was under the disaster that was Wilfred Nancy, which seems like a long time ago now.
Yeah,
Almost.
but where would we be? If he'd never come in, the league would be almost done. So, and probably had the League Cup in the bag at the same time.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Well, this is definitely the case from Brown Warrior. The key to the performance this season has been our defence. Not conceded many goals. We just need to get scoring them. I mean, I just already mentioned Negrin, but if our strikers could weigh in with a few, it would help. And of course, the midfield quandary, Motherwell's midfield, every bit as good as Celtic's, probably better. Well, I mean, that suggests you know who Celtic's midfield is, which I don't think is the case. And we're going to talk about that, obviously. Well, the refereeing team These could be the most important players in the game. Can anybody guess who's going to be the referee for this very important game for Celtic?
Well, I think we
Cheating.
know.
Mm.
I think we know.
Of course. Who else? I mean, never disappears, this boy.
No.
John Beaton will referee Celtic's crucial clash with Motherwell. Let me try that again. She sells seashells. John Beaton will referee Celtic's crucial clash with Motherwell this weekend. And who else do we have in the team?
I think Kevin Clancy's on VAR.
Yes, yeah, Clancy's on.
Clancy is on VAR. Yeah. So what does that give us some hope that there'll be a rational mind there?
Absolutely not. It's uncanny, isn't it, that every time we have an important game, big important game, it's uncanny that John Beaton's name gets pulled out of a hat.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. I think it's a hat with one name in it.
Cheating Beaton. All right. So, yeah, let's talk about players then. Callum McGregor, I suppose, is the biggest concern. Are we convinced he's definitely missing this game? Or are we just waiting for that to be 100%?
It's not been
rubber
confirmed,
stamped?
but reading between the lines, he's not going to play at the weekend.
No. I think Charlie McGrew was talking about him sort of being out for about 5 or 6 weeks.
Charlie McGregor admits it looks like Callum McGregor could be out for a good chunk of time.
Yeah.
Given that he missed the game. If it was just something minor, McGregor would have pushed through the pain for the derby, suggesting to him it could be a significant timeline. So that's just based on the fact that he missed the derby. But if apparently it's Achilles, notoriously an overuse injury. He's not suggesting that McGregor's been overused in it.
It's not something we've talked about much this season, is it? So unreal how many games he actually plays, and age is catching up with them too. He just can't do it, and he had the same problem last season, the back end of last season. I can't remember how many weeks he was out for then, but I don't know if it's been caught this time and been a bit better managed. We'll see. Reading O'Neill's comments yesterday, my take on it was it might be a couple of weeks, not 5. So, but we'll see. Time will tell.
His first comment before the quarterfinal there, Eddie, sort of suggested that him and KT were being rested because we need them for the run-in, which gives you sort of some hope that it was just a one-game thing, but you're not still clinging to that hope.
I don't think so. I think he might be right for KT, but I just think it's the way the midfield is at the moment to risk McGregor in there, especially against a Motherwell midfield that's playing quite well. I think is too big a risk, to be honest. I think you've got to change it. Now, I think Innes mentioned earlier who you put in there and what that midfield, or yourself, Gav, what that midfield is going to look like, God only knows. And we don't seem to know until literally the minute the team comes out, and it chops and changes. So goodness knows. I mean, whether he maintains that back 4, I don't know. I mean, Scales was there seemingly to add a bit of height, and to be fair to me, he did not a bad job when he was. Mm-hmm. But whether you keep that as it is, and then you can sort of, if you like, have a bit more of a less powerful midfield, I don't know. I mean, if Motherwell's midfield is as good as they're saying, then that's a risk as well. But I wouldn't. If he needs the rest, he needs the rest. It's just a shame we've left it this long, and we haven't managed to rest him in some games that perhaps he could have had a rest in.
I think Bernardo's probably got to come in instead ahead of McCowan. Well, for me anyway. So.
All right. Well, that's exactly the conversation I want to have, and I was going to use this tweet to stimulate it. Joseph P. Sloan, otherwise known as Sloaney Boy 7. McGregor being out gives me the fear. If he is, only Bernardo can fill that role, not McCann, which I think is what you've just said, Innes.
Yeah.
But then if you scroll down and you look at these comments here, the Ox was fine for me when he came in there on Sunday. McCann has been average. What the fuck has Bernardo got to do to get a run? Somebody else saying, I think Hatate could do a job there. And then somebody else helpfully says, Paulo, the Ox, Hatate. Does he mean all 3? Surely not. It's one of those 3, you would think.
Yeah.
Ox and Hatate and Negrin, says Ian. So, as ever, there's every permutation there has its own backers in it. Your three are?
Bernardo, Hatate, Negrin.
You're nodding, Innes.
Yeah, I agree.
Eddie.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the three I would go with currently. I think McCowan's had a lot of chances, hasn't really kind of shown very much. I know he got a good goal in Stuttgart, but apart from that, he hasn't really done very much. He's a bit headless chicken in the last few games he's played when he's had a chance to me. He's running around with his hair on fire everywhere. And I don't think we need that in the midfield. I know I get so frustrated with Carmack waving his hands around, telling everybody what to do. And he'd probably save more energy if he could tie his hands by his side half the time. But at least there is a bit of direction and a bit of calm sometimes, but not with McCowan there. So, yeah.
Also depends which Hatate turns up. You know, he frustrates the hell out of me. He gets caught in possession so many times, and it drives me mad. But, you know, on his day, he's the most creative midfielder we've got. So, you know, it's a tough one.
I think if McGregor's not there, Hatate will give you that little bit of slowdown and control when he can, when he's dropped further back. Although he does more passing back than McGregor does half the time.
Well, that's what Rally Jack is saying here. Hatate easy. He takes the ball under pressure and on the half turn and will attempt more forward passes than McGregor. Somebody else saying when Engels is fit again, play him in there. That's his natural position. Somebody else saying Bernardo's done the square root of 0 for a very long time now. He's kind of been this forgotten man this season. So the thought of him coming in at a time when we need somebody to do this job and pulling it off seems a bit unlikely to me, Innes.
Yeah, but we don't have the depth of squad that, you know, our choice that we've got players to put in. We've got to hope and pray that they can pull it off for us. The squad's so light. So we're all scratching around who would put in there. We've got so many players out injured. Haven't had much updates on other than potentially Johnson's back in training. But I don't know about Engels post-split. I think last year or post-international break. We're getting no feedback really out of the club as to what the situations are with the injured players.
That's true. Well, we're going to have a little look at the list of potential injuries now in a second, both teams. But we'll pause for a quick message from our sponsor.
Every life is full of stories, and we all know someone whose story should be preserved. That's what an audio memoir is, a record of you or your loved one's life stories, family anecdotes, and poignant memories. We will talk online and then edit the recordings into episodes, accompanied by family photos and contemporaneous images of the past, creating an enduring audio-visual experience. We all know someone who deserves an audio memoir.
Yeah, use the offer code Celtic when you get in touch for 10% off. If you or somebody you know is full of stories, maybe getting on in years, want to preserve them for posterity, you know where to come to. All right. So, yes, as you mentioned there, AJ, he seems to be sort of edging closer to a return. Alistair Johnson has shared a promising Celtic injury recovery update. This is from the CelticFC newsroom. The right back is currently still sidelined through injury, but is working his way back to fitness. On Monday, he posted a short video clip of himself back on the grass at Lennoxtown as he ramps up his comeback efforts. But for quite a few people, I mean, that's not really the position we're crying out for people to return into, because Araujo is doing a sterling job there, but still be great to get him back for, you know, a boost to the squad and have him about the place and doing his post-match interviews, saying again too often in them. All right. So I found this article now talking about the players. 11 out with Martinoneill missing key trio as he sweats over another. Yeah, there's this fella, what's his name now on their team? Fadinger. You know him? He's out, we think, well, potentially, and he's like a very important player. Obviously, Arnie Engels there. He's missing. Callum McGregor we're sweating over. This Joker might make it back. I saw he was one of the pundits, wasn't he? That was very both sidesing it.
Oh,
Obviously,
he was the one that was talking about Celtic supporters being on the halfway line, and he had to pull that back.
Now let me see. Where was the detail here? There's lots of players are potentially missing, and of course, Trusty's out, isn't he? Because he's suspended.
Yeah.
Is he still suspended? Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had 3 games. This is the 3rd game, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were talking earlier about would Scales maybe play as a left back? That's probably put the kibosh on that. You would think there's no Trusty.
Yeah,
It's going to be Scales and your man whose name I can never remember, Ben. What's his name? Arthur. Ben Arthur.
Yeah.
Is it probably going to be him and then the 2 obvious fullbacks? KT
Yeah,
potentially.
he's not back. It'll be
Sriracha.
It'll be Sriracha.
Yeah. And Araujo is maybe going to get a Mexico call-up. He's making waves, no pun intended, over in Mexico because of all his antics, probably as much as anything else. He's getting a lot of headlines, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Such a wind-up merchant.
He's getting a medal for winding the Huns up, that's for sure. So.
Well, he's got a punch on for hanging off crossbars and off rafters and bars, from what I can see.
Yeah, you saw him hanging off like the air vent or something when he was out partying. And Sivan Chara's phone. Took me a while to work out what it said on his phone. AJ more creative than Araujo, says Mahesh. AJ's running and crossing is missed. Yeah, I mean, he does those little inverted runs and all and exchanges passes, doesn't he, with the winger to more effect than Araujo does.
Yeah, definitely missed that.
But again, can't rush him back. Can't rush him back because we've been in that position before.
Yeah, we've done it with CCV and we've done it with others. Rushed them back and it's failed.
O'Donnell and McGinn, ageing centre-backs, must be pressed. Both lack pace, but as Mahesh keeps pointing out, it's our lack of pressing that's really been Celtic's downfall for quite some time this season. Scales was just used at left-back versus the Huns due to his height, yeah. Motherwell don't have a load of tall players. Yeah.
I think the thing is, if you looked at the game on Sunday, there was more of our first-team players either in the stand or in the dugout with injuries than there was on the pitch. That's what's scary about it. So.
And there's Mahesh making that point there, indeed. Celtic's counter-press needs to work. It's been off recently. I mean, do you think that's anything to do with just like O'Neill and not being steeped in modern football practices?
Potentially it is. We'll see. But again, it comes back to the midfield. If Hatate comes up in his game, then we should be able to break through their lines and counter press. So, but it's a big if.
But he seems to have picked up on the modern penchant at the back, where you've got 3 of them at the back, and Scales takes the goal kick to Sinisalo. Sinisalo gives it to somebody else, then Sinisalo gets it back and hoofs it forward anyway. Oh, I have no idea what the hell that's about, but that's supposedly the modern game, right? Why Sinisalo can't just clear it in the first place, I don't know.
Such a Celtic deity complaining about the modern game. Back in my day. Huh?
Well, so you've got to factor in how much of it is O'Neill and how much of it is Sean Maloney.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's probably more Maloney. My biggest worry is, the modern game is crap, right? The way the game is played, it's annoying. I'm really looking forward to the next iteration. But my concern is that everyone's going to be doing, percentage football and playing for free kicks. If Hearts manage to win this league, and Arsenal, by all accounts, are doing a lot of that down south, is that going to be the next thing that we're all playing for? Is just free kicks and diagonals and overloads of being pushing everyone up? Oh Jesus, no.
I hope not. Arsenal are painful to watch.
Are they? I haven't watched them at all.
No, they're not good. Not good to watch.
Yeah. But I see people taking the piss out of, they just play for corners and free kicks and masters of set pieces. But the game can't. The set piece is supposed to be part of the game, not the game. And if that's the way the game's going, then I'm going to be done with it. I can't watch that. That'd be terrible. We need some people who can run with the ball and, beat their man, and someone who believes in free spirits. Who was it I saw? Was it Ruud Gullit has given up watching football because he says it's just not entertaining anymore?
That said, I watched the Man City Real Madrid game last night. That was quite entertaining.
Yeah. I didn't. I saw Spurs. The Spurs keeper had a mare, didn't he? He was subbed off after 30 minutes because of his attempts to play it out from the back, Eddie.
Yeah, I felt from I mean, it wasn't just him slipping all over the place. It was 3 or 4 players, even just in the highlights. It was 3 or 4 players slipping all over the place. So, and it's sad for him. I think he's a younger keeper as well, isn't he? From
it's brutal.
It's brutal to be brought off like that. And straight up the tunnel.
But I mean, it's nothing worse than we've seen from Schmeichel this season.
True.
Well, that's a good little segue to the post that you referred to earlier, Innes. Well, it's the original is by the Celtic Way, which is Liam Scales saying, I don't think he knows how much of a relief it is when he comes out and collects a corner. Liam Scales has lauded the calming influence of Viljami Sinisalo has brought to the Celtic defence in recent weeks. The full quote is that he's so calm. He's such a calming influence on the team. I said to him after the game, I don't think he knows how much of a relief it is when he comes out and collects a corner the way he does. It takes so much of that threat away. He was brilliant off his line. Came out and cleared a few ones that were dangerous, but it was over the top, things like that. He's been brilliant. I think he hasn't put a foot wrong, and I'm really delighted for him. And then the quote poster says, mortifying for Kasper Schmeichel. This.
Yes.
Eddie?
Well, the thing is, it's amazing that we've got Liam Scales praising a goalkeeper for doing things that a goalkeeper should do every minute of the game. That's what a goalkeeper should be doing. And we seem to have lost that over the years. And as you said, changing the game. They don't seem to want to come off that line. They're terrified to come out for a corner. Years ago, the keeper would just come out and go through people and command that box and that area. And that's what you need as a defender. You don't need to be looking behind your back going, where's my goalkeeper? He should be commanding that. And I don't think we've seen Schmeichel doing that. I don't believe we've seen Schmeichel commanding that box.
No, well, I remember saying on this show, whenever we knew that it was the end for Joe Hart, a player that I never really liked that much as a goalkeeper. He kind of annoyed me as well until he came to Celtic, and then he changed everyone's opinion of him. And he was a decent keeper. But I remember saying, when Joe goes, all I want is a keeper who, is a bit more dynamic. I don't like passive goalkeeping. Whatever happened to coming for crosses and, dominating your box and screaming and shouting and, and doing all that stuff. I want a dynamic, positive goalkeeper. And then we got Schmeichel, and he's possibly even less dynamic. At the start, he was a bit more dynamic, and I thought maybe we were getting that. But he's regressed into himself, I think, as his confidence has taken a few blows.
Well, since his injury, he's gone downhill since then. Can't go to his left. Never comes anywhere near for a cross. Don't forget though, he has got us out the shit a few times and some really good saves. But in general, though, there's no way I think we would get if we're going to get over the line this season. If he's in between the sticks between now and then, I don't think it's going to happen. So, and Sinisalo's, he can't be dropped in my opinion at the minute. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we were all sort of saying we needed Sinisalo to get a run of games. He's had that run of games, and I think we've just seen his confidence grow bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, his performance at the weekend, all right, he didn't have any supersonic saves to make, bar one, I think. But, he just commanded it. He just commanded the box. He commanded everything that was going on. And you've got the likes of Gassama, who didn't look very confident walking up to take that penalty in the first place, and then he's faced with the screaming and shouting Sinisalo bouncing around. You know, and FIFA or UEFA can talk about that's against the rules and all the rest of it. Well, I don't know it's against the rules. I've never seen that rule, that the goalkeeper should be stood still. But either way, he got inside some of those players. Well, that's not surprising from Scottish referees, is it? They're not on the laws of the game from FIFA or UEFA. They're not involved anymore. So
their fax machine wasn't working, so they didn't receive the memo.
So for me, it's good of him to get that run of games, and it's nice that he's actually performed and he's now sort of taking command of that. And let's be honest, I don't know how many different back fours he's had. It must be 2 or 3, at least three different back fours he's had in the games he's played, and he's still managed to sort of look after it.
Yeah. So I'm just not looking forward to him, making mistakes. There's going to be some mistakes, and then people will be questioning, would Schmeichel have made that save, depending on the nature of it. Because I still think Schmeichel's capable of making saves that Sinisalo maybe mightn't. But the opposite's true as well. So
he might make saves to his right, but not to his left.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the manager, how much do we know about the manager? Because a lot of people are touting him for, a future Celtic manager. We've got to ask the question, which I find quite interesting because, whenever the full horror of the Nancy appointment became clear to everyone, it became sort of de rigueur to point to his CV and say something on Twitter or Instagram, something to the effect of, there is nothing on his CV that suggests he should ever have become Celtic manager, right? And then I've seen people just trotting this out now for any manager we're linked with, including, what's your man, the Spanish boy? Wigan, Everton, Portugal.
Oh, Martinez.
And
Belgium. Yeah. So that's his CV, Wigan, Everton, Portugal and Belgium. And people are saying there's nothing on that CV that suggests he should be a Celtic manager. I'm thinking, well, that's a pretty good CV, and it's certainly better than this fella's, which is Vendisel, HB Torshaven, Horsens, Gothenburg for a year, and then Motherwell for a year. So Gothenburg for a year, Motherwell for a year. But because we're seeing him up close, and people like the way he talks, and his team are playing well, and there's no doubt he appears to be a talented manager. But has he done it for long enough? Has he got the minerals, AD?
Not for me. Like I said, I'm not buying into the whole, the way Motherwell are playing fantastic football. Yeah, their form's great. The last 5 or 6 games, apart from the Dundee defeat, they've got a good midfield, as somebody's already mentioned. But I don't see it. I think it's lazy again. It's just not looking far enough. It's not looking forward thinking enough. It's typical sort of Celtic. Let's just look over the fence and see what's over there. And then we go from that extreme to the Wilfred Nancy completely and totally out of the box. So we've got to find that kind of middle ground that makes a sensible sort of, a sensible compromise between those two extremes, I think. But it's not, I've heard lots of people saying the bookies have got him favourite and all that sort of stuff, but not for me. For me, he's not a Celtic manager.
Well, I'll come to you in a second, Dennis, but just want to read a little bit more from this article. Manager Jens Bertel Asku's stock remains sky high and will land him a top job in the summer. Sports Boom can exclusively reveal. The little-known Dane, whose playing career included brief time with Norwich City, has already piqued the interest of neighbour Celtic. It's nice to see them spelling piqued correctly there. Most people go for P-E-A-K-E-D, as opposed to the transliteration of the French term. But anyway, the much-criticised Parkhead leaders are ready to make him a permanent successor to Wilfred Nancy this summer, when, as expected, interim boss Martinoneill steps aside. Blackburn Rovers are understood to have considered the former Faroe Island Manager of the Year for the Ewood Park hot seat. He's also on the radar of Premier League sides Brighton and Fulham because of his body of work at Fir Park. The Faroe Island Manager of the Year, that's the kind of thing that would be used against him in it if he inevitably failed.
Well, as we see in the modern game, it's not just all on the manager and the style of play. It's all behind the scenes as well, the backroom team and the structure behind the club. And as we know, ours is a complete mess. So you can have the best manager in the world coming in, but if you don't have the structure behind them, then it isn't going to work. So yeah, he's not for me. But the obvious one that's been in the press is obviously Martinez, because he's links with Maloney, and Maloney's definitely going to be in or around the job somewhere. So I don't see this Jens guy being in the frame at all. I think it's just newspaper talk.
Glasgow fans seem to ignore results like the recent Dundee loss. Well, you can't win them all. He's certainly doing a good job with them to have them somewhere in the hunt. Anyway, we've ticked over the hour. So, well, do we want to do any score predictions for the game? Innes?
1-0 Celtic. 1-0 Celtic.
Eddie, are you going along with that?
No, like I said before, I want a 2-0 lead early, so it's got to be at least 2-0 for me. It's got to be at least, please let it be at least 2-0.
Oh, let me think. What do I think is going to happen? Yeah, I'm going to predict a victory, but yeah, I'll go 2-0 as well. I'm with you and Cumbray or Cumbra. Oh, I don't know what that is. Smell the Gloves going for 1-0. We used to predict much bigger score lines on this show, but it's all gotten very tight. 3-1, says Brown Warrior. I mean, I can see them scoring, but can we score 3 goals these days? G-Doc seems to agree. Timothy Baird is going for 4-0 to the Leather Belts.
Let's hope so.
And Pete McGee, tight and nervy. That would certainly tight and nervy 1-0.
Not again.
87th minute winner.
Not another tight and nervy one behind the couch. My neighbours will be complaining. They'll be calling the police. They'll be calling the police. I mean, the Thai police will be banging on my door if it's another 87-minute winner.
Cumbray. Sorry about that. Pete McGee is correcting my pronunciation. Fair enough. Negrin, obviously, as nobody else can score, says Smell the Glove. I'm going to say Thomas Chavanchara builds on his penalty by scoring 2 surprise goals for Celtic as the striker. There you go. So you can clip that. I'm going to clip that and play it whenever it happens. People will think I'm a genius.
Right. I hope you're right.
If it doesn't happen, it'll never see the light of day. All right. Oh, this is a wee bit of fun here. A fan at a soccer match in Germany, don't know if you saw this, made a paper airplane in the nosebleeds and launched it across the stadium. Don't know if you can see that. You make it full screen. You can see it there flying. It's in the center circle. I've never made a good paper airplane. They were always crap in school, but then it's like kids devised how to do a better job later on. Look where it's going then. Surely not. Don't tell me. Hey! Into the goal. Place went mental. You gotta be happy with that.
Sign him up for the weekend.
Have you ever made a good paper airplane, either of you?
No, nosedived after 1 foot. So.
All right, and then finally, Paddy's Day's coming up, so I was wondering. Well, let this tweet stimulate that chat, and it's relevant to Coatbridge, which was given a mention earlier. Coatbridge gets ready for a sea of green. Don't miss one of the largest and most vibrant St. Paddy's Day celebrations in Scotland. In a town renowned for having one of the highest historic percentages of Irish-born people anywhere in Britain. Family street party in Coatbridge, so if you're in the vicinity, drop on down. Is there anything happening in your part of the world, Eddie, for Paddy's Day? Is there ever
there is
Bangkok?
Well, I don't know about Bangkok, but here they have the patio, sort of, as I said, the St. Patrick's Day parade. But as I say, I went like the year before last, and it was just, it was telling earth. It was too much messing about and standing around in too hot. And it's my birthday's the day before, so I've usually got a hangover anyway, which probably doesn't help. It really didn't really help. So yeah, no, I'll stay away from it. Stay away from it.
Is there a famous Irish pub in Wrexham, Innes?
No, there's not.
There's not?
But I'll be up in Dundee anyway, so I'll certainly be having a few sherbets up there.
Good man yourself. Well, thank you very much to you guys for joining us. For everybody in the chat, of course, as always, filling us in on a few details where I was lacking, given my sort of media ban on some of that nonsense from what was going on. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. I don't say that often enough, but I know other people do all the time. But we're pushing up to 2.5K, as it says just across the bottom of the screen there. So you could be the person that gets us over the line. Imagine that. You can tell all your friends you were exactly the 2,500th subscriber to Celtic World. That'd be good. That'd be a lot of positive news. Pete McGee reminding us of what's the most important thing, of course, this season. And yeah, I mean, that has kind of dropped off the radar a little bit as the importance of the actual games has taken over. But obviously, that's the hugest issue facing us all. All right, so we'll let you go.
Okay.
We'll be back on Monday, of course, with 2 shows, the regular show, which is this one, and the tactical review to pour over Celtic versus Motherwell. What will we be talking about? Remains to be seen. It's anyone's guess. Hail, hail to one and all. Catholic rebel, just a coat and smell the glove. Timothy Baird. Everybody else who's in there. All right. Until next time, gentlemen, all the very best till ye.
Thank you. Hail, hail.
Thank you. Hail, hail, everyone.